send an ultrasound.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 869. Hello, it's Mike Matthews broadcasting from Cafe Anyway here at the last place on earth, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Today, it's the return of the much-loved feature Matthews News, where we look at why visiting people in their houses or apartments has become a very unappealing activity of late. Plus, we hear from Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer, and is the topic of Bruce Jenner something that Mike's Daily Podcast is making your children ask you a lot of questions that you would not rather be at Mike's Daily Podcast, that particular place, answering those questions. Well, today I'm going to have guests in my house. They are some friends, and it's springtime, so they need to get out and enjoy friends and the sun and nature and that's springing all about. We'll eat some roasted pork because I like to put that in my mouth. I'm so sorry, piggies. I promise to stop eating you at some point and start adopting you. Mike's Daily Podcast. Why did God make those animals so tasty, but also so cute? Mike's The last show, Daily Valentino Podcast, and Bison Bentley, they were sad because Chris Christie may not run for presidente. Oh, look who just walked in. Hello, my good things. It's Chely Shoehart, camp supervisor. Oh my God. Like Valentino and I used to go out. Yeah, that was a long time ago. I remember that. That was way back. I think when we were still in Ventura. That's right, Mike Matthews. But I didn't like him because he didn't know how to express his feelings. Oh. And the actors, the Galecki and Padalecki, they couldn't either? No, Mike Matthews. We just talked. We never went out. Oh. But you're in love now with the brewmaster. Yeah, not Bison Bentley. He's weird. He says, "Do you know that?" a lot. He does. Well, if you want to hear Bison, listen to the show from yesterday. But yeah, so the brewmaster and you get along now. Yeah, Mike Matthews. He really knows how to express his feelings. Oh, really? Yeah, like listen to this poem you wrote for me. I like root beer, but I love you. I don't fear. Wow, that's a beautiful poem. Yes, Mike Matthews. Look who else just walked in. Hello, Mike. This is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere the engineer. Mike, I think people might be having a difficult time grasping the concept of Bruce Jenner. Yeah, in fact, Time Magazine has written a plan on how to help your children deal with it. How to talk to your children. Experts say it's important to get informed first. After Bruce Jenner's interview with Diane Sawyer this past weekend, he became the most visible transgender person in the country, if not the world. It's nearly impossible to go to the grocery store without seeing his face plastered over every tabloid cover. But how do you explain Jenner's transition to your children when they ask why a man is becoming a woman? To start, Michael LaSala, associate professor of social work at Rutgers University and a family therapist, says, before you talk to your kids about this, you need to think about it yourself. Parents need to do a self-inventory as to how they feel about the topics and to get straight in their minds what their feelings and thoughts and ideas are about transgender issues in general. It behooves parents to become as educated as possible on the topic before talking to their children about it. Then, with elementary-age children, it's best to keep the explanation very basic, says Elijah Neely, a clinical social worker who specializes in the transgender community. Sometimes children are born in little girls' bodies, but they know in their hearts that they are really a boy, Neely explains. And sometimes as they grow up, a doctor can help them become a boy. Your elementary-age kids don't need any more explanation than that. Neely says that the conversations with the young children may actually be the easiest. Neely says, my experience has been that they are able to comprehend that often much more easily than adults. And then in middle school, Neely says parents should approach the conversation with middle schoolers the same way they might with their elementary school children. Sometimes people are born in the body of a boy, but they feel they are a girl. But to add more detail to the explanation, parents can start to teach their kids of this age about the difference between sex and gender. In general, sex is biological and gender is a personal identity. Neely says you can explain this difference and the trans community to adolescents by saying, for most people, the way they feel about themselves matches the sex that was assigned at birth. But for some people, their own internal sense of themselves does not match. Those people are called transgender, and they often transition so they can live in a way that fits. And then finally, high school. If your kids are a bit older, around high school age, it may be the actual transition that they're curious about, the how of Bruce Jenner becomes a woman. In that case, Neely says you would need to make sure you had, quote, accurate information in terms of transgender people being able to take hormones that help them look more like a man or woman, or that they also might have surgeries. Then LaSala cautions that kids of this age are more socialized and might be quicker to judgment or ridicule when they hear about a transgender person. With older kids, it may be important to have a talk about people and differences and trying to understand them rather than judging them and putting them down. Overall, Neely says it's best to let the children guide the questions. I often start with the more basic information, and then with a high school student would let them set the pace at which they want more information. That article there at time.com. Well, Mike Matthews, when I watch the Kardashians and I see Bruce Jenner, I think, oh my gosh, he's like so beautiful. You know, I get a little bit jealous of him because the guy is basically good looking no matter what he is. As a guy, he was, as a man in 1976 when he was at the Summer Olympics in Montreal. If you look at that picture of him, he is a good-looking man. He is on the cover of a cereal box. He's winning decathlons. Nothing can stop him. And now he's going to be this woman in better shape than I am. And he's on that Kardashian show, and he's surrounded by these beautiful women. Bruce lives a good life overall, I would say. Mike, I want to be on the cover of a cereal box! You know, I bet he wishes he was back on the cover of a cereal box instead of the tabloids. It's weird how he just seems to be on the covers of things. Mike, yes, that's very interesting, but I also think it's interesting that the universe might be a hologram. Yes, slashgear.com has this article where our universe might be a figment of our imagination. When you hear the word hologram, you might immediately assume that we're talking about something akin to Princess Leia being projected by R2-D2 in Star Wars. She's there, but only sort of. In a study produced by Vienna University of Technology this week, mathematician researchers suggest that there's a possibility that our universe is indeed a hologram. We might be living in a 2D space rather than 3. Length, width, height. What scientists at the Vienna University suggest is that we perceive our universe in 3D, but it may be only 2D, just like a hologram on a credit card. It looks to us to be something we experience in 3 dimensions, but in fact, it's flat. And it's interesting that holograms have been around for a long time. Now, one thing that people mistake is that the Haunted Mansion has holograms in it. Actually, it doesn't. It uses the technology, the ancient technology of Pepper's Ghost, where you take a large sheet of glass and you reflect light that you're shining off of an object that then hits the glass, and it looks and you can see through it, and it creates a ghost effect. But in 1997, said scientist Daniel Grumeler of the University of Vienna, this week, the physicist Juan Maldacena proposed the idea that there is a correspondence between gravitational theories in curved and anti-de Sitter spaces on the one hand and quantum field theories in spaces with one fewer dimension on the other. And if that sentence made sense to you, why are you listening to this podcast? You're way too brilliant. You should go outside and build a time machine. So this team of researchers suggests that while the universe is generally accepted to possess a negative curvature, a flat space-time could also project a holograph experience with a 2D universe. They show how theories of quantum effects calculated in 2D may be mapped onto a 3D gravitational model. It's like finding out that all the drawings you did of cars when you were a kid turned out to be perfectly drivable when you turned them into 3D models. The full paper is under the title Entanglement Entropy in Galilean Conformal Field Theories and Flat Holography. And it's in Physical Review letters. Well, what do you think about that, John Deere? What I would like to tell you right now is that article made perfect sense to me. And Mike, you have always been a hologram to me. Really? Yes. You're saying to me, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Wow, that's beautiful. And I can kind of imagine you with hot cross buns on the side of your head. Is that what Princess Leia had? She had hot cross buns on the sides of her head. I don't know. Maybe Bruce Jenner would want to go for that look now. What? Well, he's becoming a she, and, that's what it would be. Mike, you would actually have cereal boxes on the side of his head. If we're talking breakfast foods, yes. Because he's so well known for cereal boxes. Or he was before the whole Kardashian thing. I don't know. Make sense of that, if you will. You can email me, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST-869-News. We read your comments on the section emails from email. And you can also comment on the section your common, not so comments. Go to Facebook, facebook.com/MIKEs-DAILY-Podcast. And you can comment there. And also on Twitter, we are at Mike Talks. So we read those on emails from email and your common, not so comments. And you can also be on the show if you want to be a guest on the show, or if you want to sponsor the show, you can email me, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. And there is the website, MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com, with links to where to listen to the show in iTunes. Subscribe to the show in iTunes. You can also comment on the show and rate the show. If you do that, more people find out about us. We don't languish in obscurity. There is also where you can listen to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podomatic, Mixcloud, Spreaker, Player FM, and Ameristream. Oh, and weekdays, I am on a radio station in Connecticut doing a morning show from 6 to 10. There is a link to where to listen to that show, and a link to where to listen to me on a country radio station that I do weekends, and my voice is heard all week long on this country radio station called Country Crossroads Radio. A link to that at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com, as well as where to find us on Tumblr, Yelp, and Instagram. Ooh, and if you want to help us out monetarily, there is the Amazon link. If you're going to buy anything on Amazon, go through MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com first and buy whatever it is on Amazon through our link, and that helps us out. And finally, there's the blog, the Daily Podcast Picture, and all my past interviews at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com.
Matthew's News.
Legend in My Living Room, that is Annie Lennox. That song should have been a #1 hit. Love that tune. From her big solo album, Diva, that had Why and Walking on Broken Glass. But this has to do with living rooms and living spaces. Opening windows is the main component of airing out a house. But there are a number of reasons why older folks, and maybe younger ones too, see it as an essential step in keeping a house healthy. In the early 20th century, airing homes was considered a crucial health component, as it was believed that fresh air would reduce the incidence of flu and other serious illnesses. Modern research has found some validity in this. The exchange of air keeps mold from growing, while a change in temperature can make it tougher for bacteria to live on surfaces around the house. Letting in sunlight also can make it tougher for molds and bacteria to survive. Most of all, though, airing does get rid of the stale smell and makes your home an overall nicer place to live. Now, here are a few tips on getting the most out of airing your house. Number 1, get rid of clutter, boxes, clothes, papers, and so on. Particularly on windowsills and beside beds and furniture, collect dust and impede airflow. Number 2, open the windows when you first wake up. This is a habit that this person who wrote this article for the Podcastro Valley Forum, Samantha Mazzotta, said she noticed this in Europe, that it makes a lot of sense. Once you're dressed and leaving for work, shut the windows again for good security. And then finally, you can air your home once a week while cleaning. Open all the windows and doors, dust and vacuum thoroughly, and change or air bedding. Turn down the bed covers for a couple of hours and shake out the comforter. Even if it's chilly, windy, or cloudy outside, as long as it's not pouring down rain, you can open the windows for about an hour to allow a fresh exchange of air. And she has this tip: if allergies are keeping you from throwing open the windows on warm days, talk to an air quality consultant or an HVAC contractor for the best way to keep the indoor air fresh, and changing air filters frequently. And I noticed that when I do go to a lot of people that are younger than me to their house, I notice they have all the windows shut, just clamped shut, and they have the drapes pulled. Mike, what kind of people are you visiting? No, I think this is like I think this is like a younger generation thing. Somehow they have learned to, you got to keep all that smog out, the bad air. There's all this the horrible stuff outside. You don't want to come into the house. But the fact is, there are probably even more toxic things inside the house that you got to be aware of. And yes, you got to be aware. That's true. If you have allergies, maybe shutting windows is the thing. Maybe the rooms are on fire because you have allergies and a long, harsh winter is over and spring has arrived. But allergies as well as flowers are blooming. May is National Asthma and Allergy Awareness Month. Tao Zhang, the chief of the Allergy and Immunology section at Yale University School of Medicine, discussed what to expect from this allergy season and new advances in allergy treatments. In spring and summer, many people are vulnerable to tree pollen and grass allergies, he says. Trees and flowers all seem to be blooming at once, and that means a sudden burst of different types of pollen at the same time. He says, we're predicting that this allergy season may be one of the worst in years, especially in the northeast of America. It lasts through June. Several types of trees, particularly birch, maple, box elder, oak, juniper, cedar, and pine trees, produce pollen that can trigger allergy symptoms. Allergic respiratory diseases, also known as allergic rhinitis, also sometimes referred to as hay fever, and allergic asthma, are inflammatory diseases that causes sneezing, itchy watery eyes, itchy running nose, and congestion, cough, and wheezing. For millions of sufferers, antihistamines and nasal corticosteroid medicine provide temporary relief of symptoms. For others, allergy shots or allergen subcutaneous immunotherapy are a treatment option that can provide long-term relief. Other than allergy shots, there is SCIT, or sublingual immunotherapy allergy tablets. Rather than shots, SLIT involves administering the allergens in a liquid or tablet form under the tongue, generally on a daily basis. It is similar in terms of effectiveness, and both have been shown to provide long-term improvement even after the treatment is ended. However, the treatment is only effective for the allergen contained in the shots or the allergy tablets. If an individual is allergic to ragweed and trees, the ragweed tablet shots would only help control symptoms during ragweed season. Allergy tablets have a more favorable safety profile than the shots, which is why they do not need to be given in a medical setting after the first dose. The primary side effects of allergy tablets are local reactions such as itching or burning of the mouth or lips, and less commonly, gastrointestinal symptoms. These reactions usually stop after a few days or weeks. So what can you do? According to the chief of Allergy and Immunology at Yale University School of Medicine, well, you can keep windows closed, as opposed to the last article that I was telling you about. Keep the windows closed during pollen season, especially during the day. That kind of makes sense, because when I lived in Florida, we would keep the windows shut because first off, there was pollen everywhere. if you had your car parked outside, there'd be all of this yellow dust all over your windshield. And also it'd be really hot, so you'd want the air conditioner on inside the house. Which it's completely opposite in California. You open your windows unless you live in an area. Well, here in the Bay Area, there's a lot of wind. There is some stuff flying around, and people do get allergies. But overall, I keep the windows open. And then also, it's not quite as hot and humid. But then also, they say stay indoors during midday and afternoon hours when pollen counts are highest. And they suggest taking a shower, washing hair, and change clothing after working or playing outdoors to remove allergens that collect on clothes and hair. And finally, wear a mask when doing outdoor chores such as mowing the lawn. This according to futurity.org. If you need help to prevent or control your allergies, talk to your doctor about seeing an allergist who can discuss the best treatment options available for you. That is Stevie Nicks without the Fleetwood Mac as we go outside of Cafe Anyway here at the last place on earth located somewhere in Podcastro Valley.
And here's today's podcast picture.
So we did get a little bit of rain this year, a little bit, but yeah, we're in big drought conditions. You may have heard that we are going to be, basically what they're doing is, this is crazy. So if you own a house in California, in the Bay Area, this is the deal. You are being judged by how much water you used in 2013. Yes, 2 years ago. Can you remember back that far? That year, I had just separated from my wife. I was living alone. I was barely using any water. Now, I have a roommate. I have a boarder. That's weird to say you have a boarder. Well, I have a border. That means if you cross it, I get to say that you are Russia and you are Putin. You're imposing yourself. You're impugning yourself and taking my Crimea. Yeah, so now I have someone using water. There's two people in this house using water, and I have to somehow keep the same amount of water usage as it was like when I was living by myself. Or if I go over that, I'll have to pay even more for my water. That's crazy. That's messed up here in California, but that's also, we're in a drought. So if it's raining on you right now, enjoy it. But that's a picture of when it was raining here in the Bay Area, and I'm over in San Leandro looking out over the bay, looking west as the sun is setting, looking towards San Francisco is an interesting shot, and you can see that now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Mike Matthews, I'll try not to use any water here at Cafe Anyway. I don't want you to get in trouble and have to pay more in your water bill. It's crazy. See, the thing is, when they hike up the water bill costs, they never bring it back down. If we all of a sudden get flush, as it were, with water, they're still going to have those rates the way they are. But whatever. Don't be so depressed, Mike Matthews. All right, I won't. It's beautiful out here. Look how beautiful it is outside of Cafe Anyway. You're right, Chely, and you're in love. That's true. The birds are singing, and I am happy. That's good. And Stevie Nicks stopped singing, so I'm really happy now. Oh, boy. Next show, it's going to be another Into an Interview and another band from Seattle. This time, we're going to be talking to the Ramblin' Years. Plus, we're going to hear from Benita, the disgruntled fiddle player, and the brewmaster.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!